Perfect.
Man, watching that intro reminded me I need to update it for next year. Welcome to the Gentleman Cageside Live. I'm Eddie Law. That's lead correspondent, coverage extraordinaire, Gabriel Gonzalez out of the state of California. Yeah. I always forget that, like, Arizona, we're stubborn, we don't change our time. So everyone else changes their time. So you're an hour behind me, and East Coast is 2 hours ahead of me. So I'm always feel like I'm in an island.
Anyway. You know, the thing that bothered me is that, like, sometimes you guys are an hour ahead and sometimes you're not for no reason. And it's like when I'm doing interviews and it's like, daylight, you guys aren't on daylight savings. And then it's like, oh, well, technically we are because Arizona. Then it's like, why? Who thinks that's efficient?
Yeah. I don't want to say Texas.
No, don't get me wrong. It's not your fault, but it's like, no, who would do such a thing?
Didn't they pass a law not long ago? They signed it that we're not going to do we're not doing that daylight savings anymore.
Okay, so here's the thing: as I understand it, it's very important to the flyover states where we do all of our farming and all that. But for California, New York, and Miami, and places like that, no, it doesn't affect them. It's just getting up earlier or later. But yeah, the flyover states, they need daylight savings more, is what my understanding.
Man, just get on Mexican time. If you're awake, you can work, motherfucker. God damn. I mean, my bad. Anyway, all right. This is our end of the year MMA awards show. If you, by the way, I don't even know if it's out yet. I haven't checked yet, but I know Jay Anderson, our very own Jay Anderson, is working on putting all of our picks together. So that should be up shortly at cagesidepress.com in the next day or so, or a couple of days. But it's like that's like his baby and everything. So we're doing this on video tonight. Just myself and Gabriel. Just talking, hang out with you guys. We'll go back, reminisce on 2023, the year that was in MMA and the world and all that, and of course, give you our picks. So what we're gonna try and do here tonight is we'll go pick, and then we'll talk about something that happened in the year, and then pick and everything. Not gonna go too crazy long and everything, but let's have some fun with it, man. All right, so off the rip, dude. First one of the night. You let me know if you want to go first or not. Male fighter of the year. Obviously, male fighter of the year.
Oh, we start with that one? Shoot. It's like,
or do you want to go backwards? We can go backwards.
I mean, no. You put it out there. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Male fighter of the year. Who you got?
Leon Edwards. I thought that you knew who Kamaru Usman was, and the injury notwithstanding, we didn't know how injured Kamaru was going into that fight in March. And so it is what it is. They go the distance. Leon, more or less the stories he delivered at home in London, first English champion to defend on their, second after Bisping. But then Colby Covington, you knew who Colby was off the layoff, and Leon just executed a beautiful game plan. Just really brilliant, just really felt like he had just come into his own as a champion. And I felt like that just pair of fights in particular, on top of the run he's had leading up to this year, kind of really cemented it. It's like, no, like you are officially, like, you've been going and you are still getting better while you're at the top. Fighter of the year for me.
Yeah, no, and again, there's nothing to debate on this one. Leon Edwards, man. Leon, it's, he followed up a massive 2022, Utah, Salt Lake City, knocking out Kamaru Usman the way he did, and then fighting him again in the rematch and winning against him as well. And then he shut up one of the loudest and most outspoken fighters in MMA, in Colby Covington. He's a quiet guy. Doesn't try to sell the fights. He doesn't talk a lot of trash or anything like that. Constantly doubted. Every single time he fought, Colby was supposed to run through him. He didn't, right? And you could argue that Leon out wrestled the wrestler. It was honestly just a great year for Leon Edwards. A backup pick probably would have been like Sean Strickland, something like that. But
I mean, I would have said Islam had the second fight been different. Like, let's say he had even shut down Charles Oliveira again, I might have probably really given it to Islam. But I just think the circumstances of the rematch, short notice with Volk in October, just like I felt like Leon just had more to work with. So that's why I gave it to Leon over Islam.
There you go. And to go off into our first little tangent, off of that, how did you feel about Volkanovski taking that fight on short notice? I mean, when they asked him about it, he said, it just felt like it was the time and everything." And obviously, after the fight, we find out mental health and all that has something to do with it. But how did you feel about him taking that fight on short notice?
I didn't like it. And look, in terms of like, let's say if I were a businessman, if I were Dana and the guys running the UFC, I love them. I think it's gangster. You're saving the show. You're keeping our, champion who, they don't really say it, but we assume Islam, like Khabib, big in the Middle East, just
Mhm.
that region, their background and everything. Um, so the fact that you had a guy like Volk step up, I'm assuming business wise they loved it. Me personally, I don't. I felt like Volk deserved to have that rematch on a full camp. I think that he's one of the best fighters we've ever seen from a technical standpoint. He's one of the most dominant champions we've ever seen from a statistical standpoint.
Mhm.
And the fact that he essentially burned his rematch on with a short notice 8 days camp, I didn't like it. And once again, the show must go on. Volk could have said no. He chose to say yes, and it is what it is. But personally speaking, if you told me that Volk, that fight doesn't happen, he fights Ilya Topuria, and then maybe he takes out like a Arman Sarukian, and then this
Yeah.
time next year he's fighting at lightweight for the title again, I would have said perfect. He's earned it. I think there's more interest for it. Now it's like you got Gaethje, you got Charles, you got Islam probably thinking he's moving up, not taking on another guy moving up. So I don't
Mhm.
like how it set things up for Volk, plain and simple.
100%. I was in the same train. As soon as I heard he took the rematch on short notice, I'm like, this fight is way too big to do on short notice. Let anybody else take that short notice fight. Somebody would have taken it for sure. But you know, he did say the UFC's ass, and I'm sure the UFC was very appreciative of all that, just like you said. So I was just bummed out not to see the best Volkanovski because now he's 0-2.
Yeah.
It's near impossible to get a third fight with Islam for the lightweight belt unless he somehow moves up, unless he moves up to 55 and then makes a resume on there, and then even if Islam's still champion, he'll get a shot. But as far as being champ, I think it's out the window for Volkanovski for as long as Makhachev's still champion.
Well,
So
I would throw this little one. I feel like their plan is to have Islam move up sooner rather than
yeah.
later. Could that open the door for Volk against
Mhm.
somebody like Charles, let's say at 55? Yeah, but then once again, it's like that's now it's about other factors outside of his control, not his.
Yeah. Plus, you got to remember, Connor looms in
Oh
2024.
yeah.
That dude already said he's going to put in the next couple of days, going to put out, allegedly going to put out who he's fighting. So we'll see. Shout out to Bowie in the chat saying what's up. Wanted Volk to win that rematch so bad. I think a lot of people did. A lot of people gave him that first fight. It's one of the, somebody called it a robbery. I don't know if it was a robbery, but some people have that for the robbery of the year. So we'll
I
put it
mean,
that
but
way.
then you could have also made like the trilogy, and then
Yeah.
that's also feels fair. But now it's like, well, could have
Mm-hmm.
been, right?
Exactly. And speaking of trilogies, we might get one sometime soon, although it's 0-2 on somebody's favor. Female fighter of the year, I'll take this one first because she's from my hometown. It was the easiest pick. Not to mention, she pulled out some crazy stuff. Alexa Grasso,
Yeah.
coming out of Guadalajara, Jalisco, straight up my hometown. Easy one for me. She beat someone who many believe could have been beaten. Some considered the real women's GOAT. All due respect to Amanda Nunes, a lot of people thought Bullet should have been considered that. Submitted her in the fourth round of their fight at 285, and then underdog counted out. They almost look at Grasso the way I feel. They almost look at Grasso even now as champion. They almost look at her like she's little, like she's this little girl who has no business winning a fight, and she's pulling it off. Repeatedly. You can actually see, like, watch every single one of her fights, and she's very obviously and visually you can see her improvements. Going and going. And then she game planned perfectly against my team the first time, and the second time fight into a draw was to me it was nuts, but I understood the decision there. But yeah, easy one for me, man. Alexa Grasso.
Yeah, being at both of those fights, when I tell you the room was very much like, I won't out them, but I saw some people who've been around this a lot going when they saw Alexa choke out Valentina.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real. You got to remember, we were thinking about, oh, this is a toss up for Valentina. This is the
Right.
Valentina showcase on
It's a
the John
gimme.
Jones undercard. Alexa Grasso doesn't have grappling. Valentina is so well-rounded, so versatile, been so dominant. We're looking ahead to Aaron Blanchfield. Manon Fior is doing well. Tyler Santos was expected to come back. That's who we were talking about in March. Let's make it clear. And then Alexa pulls that one out of the hat. She was losing that fight, and she got the job done, plain and simple. Now, talking about the immediate rematch, I want to stress watching her that week, talking to her that week, her presence, her posture, it kind of felt like, with respect, because I do believe Alexa always knew she could win it, even though she knew she had a tall order ahead of her. It felt like in March, we were talking to Clark Kent. In September, we were talking to Superman. Or in this way, I'm a big nerd. We were talking to Kara, and then we were talking to Supergirl. To be, just to gender that correctly.
There you go.
But my point is, it's like, no, I felt like, Alexa kind of knew that, like, you guys, I get it. I'm up against Valentina, right? I get it. In September, the card was around her, and she just carried herself like the champion. It just felt like she had matured into that person that we kind of all felt she showed that as a prospect, right? She was early 20s, Invicta UFC. Now she had become that person, like fully baked out of the oven killer. And I really think that she showed that in the way she performed in the rematch. So, was it a draw? Yes, but I will say she did not lose the fight. And I think that that's how Alexa has kind of framed it, which is smart from a marketing standpoint. So excited, big fights for Alexa obviously coming. Valentina, Aaron's out there, Manon's out there. So there's a lot of fights coming for Alexa Grasso in 24, and for sure, fighter of the year for me, 2023.
I'll say this, man. When Brandon Moreno won the title, and he was like, soy un chamaco, I'm a young, I'm a kid from Mexico. I was in tears. I cried, dude. I was like, yo, one of ours got it, right? And then when Alexa won, I was like tears, but I was so proud. I was just so proud. I'm like, let's go. Like, that was awesome. So yeah, that got me on that. As far as Grasso goes, 2024, I love when fighters try to make fights on Twitter. Like, it's fun for me. Like, I like seeing it. And, her and Wei Lee have been talking back and forth. Other girls are talking at Wei Lee, like, hey, what are you doing? Whatever. And, you wait your place in line and everything. That's a wild fight. It's a weird fight, but for some reason, I kind of want to see it. What do you think of that one?
I want to see it, just not next. Sorry, I feel like if we were going to do that, give Alexa Aaron Blanchfield, give Wei Lee Yan Shonan, and we can make the unifier next. But I just feel like, like respectfully, I think Islam Makhachev needs to fight Gaethje next. I think that next man up, let's clear the board before we talk about double champ. Instead, people are kind of getting ahead, and maybe the UFC sees those dollars, and that's just where they want to go, which is fine. It happens. But to me, I just feel like, I feel like we've built up someone else so much that I don't know that I feel like I want the double champ fight next. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be great objectively.
100%, you're right. All right, moving on to the next.
Oh, can I ask you a quick one on Alexa?
Yeah.
Do you feel like they will fight before the whole Mexican Independence Day Sphere event in Vegas and all that?
No, I think that'd be the fight to make for that. That's September.
In September. That's 9 months. They like 12 months late. Okay, so here's my only thing is that I'm assuming they're trying to set up. So who are your biggest Mexican stars? Brandon, Yair, Alexa. I don't want Alexa to wait 12 months for a fight. If you're telling me that hand injury is a legit 12-month injury, same thing for Valentina, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I feel like you gotta let Alexa and Valentina solve this sooner, and then you just try to line up Yair or Brandon for September, because I don't want to wait a year just for Alexa and Valentina, because that just happens to be our only available Mexican champion for Mexican Independence Day. It's like, that's just we're too bottlenecked now at women's flyweight.
The UFC screwed that up so bad. We can talk about or we can guess about the reasons, I guess, in the background. And I remember you and I talked about why it was probably not taking place last year, UFC Mexico, and now they're doing it in February. But it's just, man, they dropped the ball so hard, dude. That would have been the perfect time to do a pay-per-view in Mexico City, but is what it is. But I'm with you. I don't want
timing in their plans. Just they don't
Yeah.
like the same thing with Strickland, Adesanya.
Yep.
It's like, well, because they signed a huge deal with Australia, they needed to go big. They couldn't wait
Mhm.
for Adesanya Drakus, and Adesanya was the only champ available.
I'm still laughing that Strickland is headlining a Canadian card. It's
Oh,
just hilarious to me.
that's for
Shout out.
that's for next month, Eddie.
That's still funny. All right. Oh, what's up, Toast? Tuning in. Did I win? You got second place. Boy beat you to it. Grasso Whaley 300. I
Don't
wonder if that's
hate
what they're
it.
thinking.
Don't
Yeah.
hate it.
I heard the Spear Mexican Independence Day is going to be a pay-per-view. Oh,
I
yeah, the
think they
Sphere. Yeah,
the
yeah.
sphere, yeah. Here's the thing, timing, because typically, here's what you got to remember: they have a contract with the T-Mobile Arena. There's a
Mhm.
reason it says home of the UFC and
Yeah.
not just UFC is in town this week. You know what I mean? So I don't know that you can actually do that. Uh, you know what? I'd have to see. I don't know if they're under the same ownership, so they would feel like it is okay, more or less. But
Mhm.
yeah, because T-Mobile is where they did the Alexa Valentina rematch, and they treated it like a pay-per-view, but it was a fight night. And I think it just comes down to the UFC schedule. Where do they grant these pay-per-views, and where are they at to fulfill their annuals in Vegas, their
Mhm.
annual in Australia, et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure you're gonna be wanting to go do that Sphere card.
Bro,
That
I might
sounds.
just buy a ticket if
Yeah.
scheduling wise. You know what I mean? I don't want to miss it. I'll tell you that right now.
No, that's one of those that you try to go whether
Oh
you're
yeah.
intermediate. So definitely gonna be one of those. I think we'll see plenty of people we know at. Oh, and shout out to everyone at Fury Pro Grappling tonight. Like Cageside Press fully represented there with Dylan Napoleon, Dylan Rush, and Jake Noker there for us. And I mean they're just kind of there, but they're part of the team. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
All right. Next award up, and they're probably one of the more fun categories. Obviously, knockout of the year. You want to take this one?
Yeah, you know what? Israel Adesanya getting revenge finally on Alex Pereira. I think leading up to it, just you knew what Pereira had done to him in the past. You're
Mm-hmm.
watching that fight, and it's like Pereira's got his number. Adesanya just can't get this is the boogeyman that he just, the monkey he can't get off his back, the guy that he just can't beat. Robert Whitaker's back in the game. Marvin Vittori's back in the game. Pereira's about to get him for the fourth time, and then three-piece Minnesota, bang, bang, bang. Pereira goes out. Look, I've been doing this a long time as media, as a fan. It's been a long time since I got off of the couch and was reacting, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, it brought me to my feet. I really thought Pereira was just gonna get him again.
Yeah.
And then the lead up, Pereira had come into his own as a star. He's doing the tribal thing with the bow and arrow. I don't think he did that last year in Madison Square Garden, but he's doing that now. He did it again this year for the Jiri fight. Then obviously the iconography, Adesanya shooting the arrows into him. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the big photos of 2023 in MMA. It's obviously been replicated by our own Dylan Rush at his graduation, all this
Yes,
stuff.
sir.
It's part of the lore of 2023. That's how iconic it was. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
take away from Pereira's victories, but Adesanya clearly had the most iconic one. Knockout of the year. Give it to him.
There you go,
You
man.
might have a different one. Go for it.
No, no, same damn one. Same one. That's the one that impressed me the most after not being able to get over the Powhatan Hill for years. And I mean years. He couldn't get over it. And just like he finally exercised the demons by landing that powerful counter right hand and ending Pereira. I don't even know how to say it. Pereira, right?
Pajeda. I
Pereira.
mean, you have to say it slowly if you're not a fluent Portuguese speaker, I think.
Right. I'm gonna,
Look,
I like his nickname.
Justin Gaethje had a great one. I mean, when you talk about the context over Poirier, that was nice. I give Josh Emmett the full violence points for what he did to Bryce Mitchell, but in terms of the moment, the execution, just everything around it, Adesanya for me.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. And then what was it, Powhatan? How dude,
Tajiri?
the Jiri one was nasty too.
Yeah.
But what I like about the Powhatan knockout was Izzy spoke to the rep beforehand. He goes, "Hey man, however this ends, especially if it's a knockout, I'm not gonna touch him. Don't worry. Let me do my thing. I'm gonna do something fun. I'm not gonna touch you. You know what I mean, and was it Herb Dean? Was it the ref?
I want to say it was Herb. Yeah.
I think it was her. But either way, like props to that guy for not having to stick up his butt and like stopping it. Like he was just he's like, yeah, okay, he's doing his thing, cool. And it was just iconic. It's gonna be in the next intro or two that Izzy ever fights on a pay-per-view. It's gonna be on highlight reels, all kinds of stuff. So that
I
was
feel
really
like
cool.
you got to add it to like that intro they do at every UFC event when you're live. You know,
Yeah.
they do like a if you've never been to a live UFC, like top of the night or before the main card,
Mhm.
they do this huge montage that sometimes gets broadcast, and it's like the highlights of the UFC. You got Pettis off the cage, you got Connor, you got Chuck Liddell, all the legends. I feel like him just that emotion has to end up on there at some point.
Yeah, no, it's got to. It's got to. Yeah, and it's funny because having covered a bunch now, I've been to more UFC events as media now than I have as a fan. And you can always, not always, but most of the time you can hear that boom boom, before they start the main card,
Mhm.
right? Or even before they start the entire card. I really want them to change that up a little bit, do something a little different starting in 24. But I mean, I think we
I
talked
think
about
there's
not like long ago. We talked about how Dana's kind of like the produce for all that stuff, and everything needs to be checked off by him. Kind of knows what he's doing and works
I
out
think
pretty well.
there's a little nostalgia for it. Like it's
Yeah,
still Teenage Wasteland years later and
hmm
all this. So, I
that's
mean, I
true.
kind of get it. There's nothing wrong with tradition. I know they changed up like the theme that played before the pay-per-views once before. Now it's completely different when you buy the
Mhm.
pay-per-view. But
Yeah,
yeah, I know they were married to it before. Obviously, Face the Pain is a very iconic one for like the
yeah.
pre-ESPN era. So
hmm Yeah, sometimes I do miss those old school cards, those old school intros and all that. Those were always
yeah,
fun. Like the Roman with the
yeah, the Face the Pain. Yeah.
yeah, basically, but like the Roman and the whatever the body armor, all that was really cool. But yeah, man. All right, next award here, and quite obvious submission of the year. You want to take it or you want me to go?
Yeah, I go. Olga Rubin for the buggy choke on Claire Guthrie. If
Was
you haven't seen it, the
nasty.
video talking to her about it is on our channel and all
hmm
our socials. Look, could you have given that to Alexa and Valentina for the whole shock factor in the moment? Yes. I like to award this one to degree of difficulty. I like to give it to submissions we don't see every day. Olga Rubin's buggy choke fit the bill. She'd been working toward it, she told me.
hmm
She'd been wanting to get it in a fight, and she just knew that it was. She said, I knew once I got to that position, I was going to get it. She knew, and she couldn't do anything about it. And just made for a very fun clip. Congratulations, obviously, to Olga for being able to secure it in a big moment. So, yeah, that is my submission of the year.
Yeah, I went with Alexa. I went with Alexa just because of the impact of what it was, underdog, doubted, and all that, and it was funny because when I saw Valentina throw that it was a spinning roundhouse kick or whatever it was when she
Like the
threw
back kick, yeah.
the back kick, yeah, thank you, the back kick. It was the way when she threw that, I was like, I legit as she was throwing it, I'm like, did she just Weidman? She about to Weidman right here? Because remember Weidman did the same thing with Luke, and Luke took him down and beat him up the rest of the fight. And so when she spun that, and Alexa was able to rip that into basically and finish it with the back kick and everything, I was just like, she did not just Weidman. That is nuts. And so yeah, I mean, not much more to explain here. Alexa Grasso submission for me of the year on that.
What I'll say
Um,
about Alexa is that what's almost more impressive about her pulling that out of the hat than Leon on Kamaru last year was
mhm,
that at least Leon was on a 10 fight win streak.
yeah.
Leon hadn't taken an L in a long time. Alexa had moments in her career up and down, and she was taking on an equally dominant killer in Valentina. They didn't think she had grappling. That made that all the more impressive. If you told me Leon is going to win by striking, not
mhm.
as crazy. When you told people in March she's going to beat Valentina grappling, nobody was talking like that. Let's be straight up. And I think that's what's really cool about the Alexa one. Once again, degree of difficulty, you know, maybe not in terms of jujitsu, but for the moment, for sure. Had it happened in the fifth round, I would have said more epic
Mhm.
than Leon's head kick. I'll give you that.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Bowie says best moment of the year Izzy's win. I'm with you on that. Definitely one of the bigger ones. All right. Event of the year. Sorry,
Ooh.
let me roll that back 1 second because I forgot I was going to ask you something about 125 specifically.
Mhm.
Who do you see as the next challenger at 125? If it's not Bullet, if for some reason they don't get Valentina trilogy, who do you see as the next challenger for
Oh, it's got to be
Alexa?
easily the winner of Aaron and Manon Fior. Just, I think the hype, I think that the run they're on, I think the way Aaron rallied to get that one from Tyler Santos was huge.
Hmm.
I think that there's just there's just the full head of steam behind Aaron right now to win that one. But Manon is just so consistent too. So either of those, meritocracy, hype, just that's the girl. Whoever wins that.
And that's exactly what I was thinking too. The winner of that one definitely gets or should get Alexa
Yeah.
the Alexa fight if it's not a trilogy. And I want to say now that I think about it, Aaron Blanchfield's on the mic tonight with John Morgan at Fury Pro Grappling. So there you go. If you want to hear her
Hey,
speak,
text the boys, like tell them to get on it.
there you go.
This isn't trying to get Joe Rogan after UFC 300. You could get Aaron.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. All right. Event of the year. What are you thinking?
Okay, I'm always bad with the numbers. I believe it is 285. John Jones, Cyril Gahn.
Mm-hmm.
Just the entire build up to that thing. I mean, we had Dracus Duplessis on the undercard. But when I tell you, people, it was like I've heard this said, like they said it about like the Russian hockey team at the Olympics. If they win the gold medal, nothing else matters. If they
Mm-hmm.
don't win, nothing else mattered. That's what it felt like. People came for John Jones. At the end of the day, that's who the people came to see. Whatever else happened on the undercard, it's about whether or not John Jones wins. It was a very different vibe for a fight week. I've done 2 Connor fights, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you right now that the John Jones hype, at least in this moment for this particular one, was just different. People cared about John. There was a lot of hype, a lot of mystique, and he just delivered. Like I said, the whole undercard. Obviously, Alexa was on that one. I think they had a Jalen Turner on the
Mm-hmm.
undercard. It just was a very stacked. Ian Gary, so momentum just kept building, but I just remember it being a really special night. And yeah, just crowd, the card, the vibe. I gave it to that one. And yeah, I may be a little biased because I was there too. But yeah.
Yeah, I still remember. Oh, hold up, Capitan Fucho. How you doing, man? Um, I remember 280. I was at the Apex card where so there was some a fan. Somebody was in front of T-Mobile Arena and they snapped a picture because it showed John Jones and Cyril
Oh
Gahn
yeah.
on the headline. And I remember that happened. It was on fight night that happened earlier, right before the prelim started. And when I tell you that everyone in media starts going up to the PR people like, hey, what you know about this, right? They were basically forced to announce it, and then Cyril Gahn comes in to talk to us. I was like, yo, this is nuts. So,
Mhm.
yeah, card ended up working out really well. Bo Nichols on that card, Cody Garbrandt was on that
I was
card.
gonna say I just pulled it up. Shavkat stopping
Shavkat,
Jeff Neal, Gamrot, where he came in on short notice to beat Jalen Turner. That
bro.
was a Bo Nickel card. Jamie Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
Prelims, Cody, Dracus, Amanda Hebas, Marc Andre Barrialt. I mean, that was an epic night, man.
Yeah, keep an eye out for Gamrot. This dude likes to be the wrench thrown into anything these days.
I
That dude
like
is
his
just,
whole vibe. It's
I
like he's
do,
got the
yeah,
glasses on. He's Clark Kent, and
yeah.
then
He's Clark
and then
Kent, yeah.
he waits for fight night to take his shirt off, look ripped, and remind you he's Superman. And I'm like, all right, I see you. I get respect.
That'll teach you, folks. All right, keep talking trash to that IT guy in your office. All right, he might be Gamrot. You never know.
Doesn't he's just got that chill vibe, doesn't he?
Seriously, he does. He's so cool. And then I ran into him after I forgot, he wasn't even like supposed to fight. He was just there at the Apex one time. And I remember I ran into him. I was like, hey, big, I like watching your fights, man. Congratulations. He talked to me for like 10 minutes about anything but fighting. It was really cool. Just really chill dude. And then
Oh, nice.
turns into a badass the next time I see him. So it's cool. All right. For me, UFC 295, and I know it's more recent and everything, recently biased, and it probably is recently biased, but Tom Aspinall, like the way he comes in, he was injured. I think it was a back thing, right? A back injury, whatever it
Oh
was.
yeah.
Coming in against a Russian tank who was healthy, who's a psycho. I don't know if you've seen that video of Sergey Pavlovich, like shadow boxing on the beach, but it's his speed for a heavyweight is ridiculous. coming off dealing with the injuries and all that. But Tom Aspinall pulling that off was, to me, was just amazing. And then Poatan becoming a 2-division world champion in 7 UFC bouts is crazy to me. On that one, I felt a little sad when Jessica Andrade knocked out Mackenzie Dern. That was a little sad. I was kind of hoping for Dern to pull something off and everything, but it was cool to see them go back and forth talking about supporting each other through their respective divorces and all that. And then Benoit Saint Denis and Diego Lopez. I just feel like those two guys are going to make ridiculous waves in 24 and 25. So I think that card set up. I was going to go 285 first, but that 295 card to me was just like massive.
What I remember most about that is that on paper it felt like just a basic 3-pack. Like you knew stylistically they would be good fights, but I always look at it from the standpoint of the paying fan. Mm-hmm. You want your money's worth for everything that goes on. Eddie about to hack into my computer in the dark over there.
My light literally died. It's a battery operated. So yeah, it happened yesterday in Keyboard Warriors. What are you gonna
do? I got you. But no, I remember, I don't know that fans were as excited. Remember, like they were talking about the prices for the John Jones ticket and what it was supposed to be John Jones' last fight, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like you looked at it from all those point of views, and it's like, like, is this one of the weaker Madison Square Gardens? And the night just delivered. Like you said, Benoit, Lopez, it just kept building, the whole 5 fights to end the night just kept building. And that was such a fun night to watch. So yeah, for sure.
Do you think, for me, UFC 200 was for the most part a letdown? Jones said some positive, not being able to fight DC that night. I was hyped for Kane knocking out Travis Brown. I was hyped for Amanda Nunes getting the belt off of Miesha Tate. But not getting John Jones on that card just felt like the entire card was just a downer to me. Do you think there's a danger, or you think maybe the UFC is going to like kind of hedge their bet a little bit for UFC 300 to make sure that one delivers no matter what?
You know what's crazy about 200, and I might knock some stuff over so I can. I have the 200 poster like 5 feet to my left over here. Mm-hmm. What I remember most about that was the pacing. Kane took out Travis Brown, and then things just kind of stalled. Like Aldo and Edgar went 5 good rounds, but 5 rounds. Then DC and Anderson was a slow burn. Then the Brock Lesnar fight, I want to say that Brock went the distance with Hunt, just kind of wrestled, smothered him down. So the pacing was a little off. And then I think what hurt 200 the most was what you'd expected. Remember, it was supposed to be Conor. Right. Conor didn't do his media, and he got bumped to 202. Then the John Jones things happens the Wednesday of fight week. And it's like, so I think that at the end of the day, we just kind of learned that, like, there's such a thing as a superstar for a reason. You know what I mean? There's a reason why Taylor Swift does the same 30 songs for 3 hours, and they're still live streaming it every night when she's in concert. There's a reason why, when Eminem performs on Fortnite, you have thousands of people who don't game watching streams on Twitch. It's because this is a superstar. And I think that's the only thing that hurt 200. As stacked as that sucker was, top to bottom, it's still stacked today when you look at it on Wikipedia. It just, people wanted that cherry on top. They wanted that guy that makes you show up and feel that emotion. I don't know that 200 had that one. I think that all things considered, just as much nostalgia for Anderson, the run we know Amanda Nunes would go on to have. We wanted John, we wanted Conor, we lost both. And I think that's the only thing that hurt it in the eyes of the fans, besides the night of, it just was a slow night.
It was definitely a slow night. And it was like, for like 300, I feel like you need to like really stack that thing. Now, a lot of people have put out there, their UFC, if I was the matchmaker, this was the card I would make. I haven't read or watched any of those because I don't want to think about it. I really don't. Because it's like, if you don't do a Conor main event, like, what do you do? You know what I mean? John Jones is hurt. Who else? You're not going to put Tom Aspinall on there.
I've heard Israel Adesanya, like, fighting the winner of Dracus or Strickland, which, that's once again another little bit of a quick turnaround.
I
You got
think
to
that
come out of
only.
that fight healthy in order to have a rest and full camp on that timetable.
I feel like out of Sean and Drakus, I think the only one crazy enough to do that is Sean.
Oh yeah, well he did it the first time. Now, mind
Yeah.
you, he was the challenger, not the champion. I'm not afraid to say it. Here's my dream UFC 300 card, ladies and gentlemen. Sit down, get your water, recharge your light, Eddie.
I got you.
Conor McGregor, preferably Nate Diaz, but I'll take Michael Chandler in the main event.
Let's go.
Co-main event: Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. Stylistically fun fight, banger.
Yeah.
Third from the top: Israel Adesanya, Hamzat Chimaev. Let's go. Fourth, let's go Dustin Poirier with some hot sauce shorts taking on Beneil Dariush. Or Armin Sarukian. I would argue Sarukian may be looking for someone else like a Gaethje, but I'll take Poirier. Poirier against anybody, Beneil or Armin. Let's go. Then finally, we need to show the women some love. Rose Namajunas, Amanda Ribas at 25.
I like that. I like that card a lot.
Take my money. Let's go.
I honestly like the only one I've been thinking about is the main event. And I'm just like, man, how do you not try your hardest to do Nate Connor 3? Like you gotta try your hardest to do Nate Connor.
I feel like that if there's anything that's being stalled, it has to be for talks with Nate, because that would just be such a turn from left field. You got two fan favorites. You got the biggest star in UFC history, MMA history ever. I mean, what more do you want? And the only thing I would argue, because I've heard this, is UFC 300 gonna sell most likely. How it plays out on the night, we don't know yet. If you put Conor on 300, it sells fantastic. If you put Conor McGregor on UFC 301 and anybody else in 300, you have most likely 2 successful pay-per-views, not just one. If I'm running the UFC business, I'm aware that while we have a lot of emotion for 300, we still have 13 pay-per-views to sell. I understand from a business standpoint why you feel 300 may not need Conor, why you might go in the direction of Islam versus Leon, which feels like is in the ether right now. So I get that, but I think the fans, if you talk about one night, how do you give the fans something special? I think Conor against Nate, but really I'll take anybody, Gaethje or Chandler. I think that's the perfect way to end it off, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of so sick of hearing about Conor and Mike Chandler that I just want to see it. Just make it happen already. Come on, let's just make it official, make the fight happen. Whatever happens, happens, and move on.
The one thing I'd argue is that Nate and Gaethje are bigger fights.
100%.
I don't want to say that out loud because that's just so disrespectful to Michael Chandler after this year and waiting and all that.
No, I'm with you on that too. Shoot. All right. 3 more categories to go. Comeback of the year. So this is in a fight. Comeback of the year. You want to take it?
No, go ahead, Eddie.
All
Let's go.
I've always been a fan of this guy, and so when I thought about this category, is the only guy I thought of. I didn't think of anybody else. Edson Barboza coming back against Sodiq Yusuff at Fight Night 230, whatever Vegas card that was. Going to the first round of that fight, it just felt like Yusuff was going to use Edson Barboza's name to bump his stock up and get into the contender list and all that 45. Until Barboza remembered who he was. And Barboza brought that. I mean, you saw the veteran savvy come out of him. And I think in the second round, he rocked Yusuff and then kind of took over and put on a masterclass after that. And I want to say that was, can't remember that was before. I think that was after he knocked out Billy Quarantillo. And the only sad part about that knockout, I mean, I don't pick fights anyway, but for the most part, but I was happy for Edson. I was sad for Billy, but I was like really bummed out for Ben Davis, who's a big, he's pals with Billy. And so it was me and Alex Behunin sitting next to me. We're on press row in Kansas City, and Edson lands his like murder knee that puts Billy out in a second. And Alex both look at each other. We're like, who's gonna look back at Ben? Ben's sitting in the crowd in the front row with Megan Anderson. Okay, and we're sitting there and we're just like, we kind of both look back, and Ben looks devastated. I felt bad for him. and then all I see is Alex's phone sneaking in front of me to take a picture of Ben. Like, oh, dude, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know.
That's cruel.
It was so mean, and he posted it, and it's all over. It was all over Twitter immediately. It was hilarious, and we both went over to talk to Ben, and we were just like, hey man, it's okay. Billy will be back. But either way, that was my fun part about that knockout. But Edson Barbosa, man, remembering who he was, and then teaching Yusuf a lesson, which I guarantee he's going to take further into his career for sure.
Yeah, look, obviously, anytime those vets get to that point when they're still pulling the magic out, any given night is obviously, it's great. For myself, I just felt more epic swing Bellato against Ihor Portieria. That it's not often the big guys throw down like that, and then just he takes a beating in the first round, comes back, stops him. I think like there was less than a minute left in the second round, and it was like if you watch the first round, he was not going to come back to win that second. At the pace they were going, with the volume they were throwing, with the power they were throwing, and he pulls that one out of the hat once again, and it's like, give the man his flowers. That's how you get it done. So that was for me. Barbosa was fantastic, like I said, but yeah, I just felt the more dramatic one for a comeback, Bellato.
That was Bellato's UFC debut, right? UFC Austin?
I believe
right?
so, yeah.
I want to say it was debut, which is you're showing some stones. You got some stones if you come back.
I didn't get here just for it to end like this. Yeah, there you go,
yeah,
man.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like
my kind of energy.
100%. All right, next one up. Newcomer of the year, obviously new to the UFC. It doesn't have to be new to the whole sport and everything. I had a hard time picking, because like I'm leaning one way or another. But for me, it was hard not to go with Bo Nickel. Undefeated record. He had to win in the contender series twice to convince Dana to give him a contract. And then dude just rolls with the punches, man. He got the contract and he has 2 first round finishes in the UFC, and now he's got to fight UFC 300 against Cody Brundage in April. Like the kid's got it, man. My backup pick I'll give in a second here, but or my other pick, that was close, but I got Bo Nickel on this one.
I mean, look, he has a fantastic year. I think he's performed great. I think his last fight, I mean, everyone's expecting take him down, handle it, just decide step back and throw a few hands, and it's like, okay, dude, I see you. I like talking to Bo, a humble guy. I think he's got one of those guys, good head on his shoulders. I like what he's done with his branding from college now to MMA. Obviously, he's aligned himself with Jake Paul. I think he's just making all the right moves. He's calling out the right names. He's plotting a path for himself. I think he's doing great. He's just got to keep the train going, keep developing in his skills as he keeps going. I always interpret newcomer of the year, the major leagues. So not just UFC, but if you fought, from the regionals to now a Bellator to a PFL, I count those. I went with Jesus Pinedo. He'd been doing his thing on the regional scene. Both him and Braga, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say this was Braga's first season, it might have been. But Pinedo opens the year loses to Braga, needs a win, does it and knocks out defending champion Brendan Loughnane, bounces Loughnane out of the playoffs, comes in, beats a veteran like Bubba Jenkins, who's been in the finals before, then comes back, gets his revenge by finish against Braga to win the $1 million. Cinderella story. If they were basketball players, we'd be playing that one magic moment like the Final Four. So Pinedo got it for me.
There you go. And I love it because it was like, I remember he won that, and I was just like, I think I was live tweeting that one. I was like, man, Peru, stand up. Y'all got a champ. That was huge for that guy. Yeah, I completely forgot about him. That's a great pick.
And then, by the way, Patricio Pitbull next year. I mean, let's go. That's a fun fight.
100%. That's going to be kind of scary for him, but we'll see. My other one was going to be Diego Lopez. It just comes in, Mozart Evloev, scares the crap out of Evloev, and then 2 first-round finishes in a row, dude. And I think I think what made me kind of a fan of his isn't just his fighting style, the fact that he trains with Alexa Grasso in my hometown and everything. But when he came out, I forgot the name of the song, but it's a song about being Mexican. The dude's Brazilian, right? He just embraced the culture. I'm like, let's go, boy, let's go. So it's cool. So I was a big fan of his. Do you have any, but just off the top of your head, and you don't have to research anything, because I obviously didn't bring this up before. But do you have a name of anybody who you want to see make their big league debut, PFL, Bellator, UFC, whatever, that you think will have a big like a big 24?
Oh man, you know what? We got a guy that I met on the regional scene, Gianni Vasquez, competes in Southern California. Just fun fighter, great vibe. I wouldn't mind seeing him at flyweight make a big league debut. Tommy Aaron is another guy who's been putting in a lot of work. Trains with Tony Ferguson, one of Tony's students. Who, if you watch the scrum during media day, those two guys on the regional scene, I'd like to see them make the jump back up. You get attached to these people that you've gotten to know on the scene. Love to see Justice Strader back in the UFC, get another crack at it. Sabina Mazo, LFA champ, once again, get another crack at it. Still very young in her career. So I'd like to see those particular individuals, but I know some of them have had their shot yet, but yeah, just like to see them back at it again.
I'm gonna go a bit regional scene, LFA, but he's also one of my teammates at J Pages Jiu Jitsu. Princeton Jackson, 3 wins. He's 3-0, 2 first-round finishes, both by rear naked choke. He just competed at Combat Jiu Jitsu last weekend. Was getting mauled by a giant. Pulls it off at the end. And every time I see him at training, I'm like, dude, what the F, dude? What happened? He literally just looks at you like, whatever, dude. This, you want to roll? Yeah, dude. It's kind of like he's so cool and great guy and everything. But yeah, to me it'd be like if he makes like PFL or Bellator or something like that. I'm like, ooh, let's go. Dude, just never quit, never say die type of guy. And then yeah, so there's that. All right, next category here. We'll pull it up on my phone. This one's kind of easy for both of us, I think. Upset of the year. You want to take it first?
Well, go ahead. Talk to me more about your girlfriend Alexa Grasso over there.
I didn't pick that one, bro.
You didn't pick Alexa. You did not pick Alexa in that category.
I wanted to, but I had it for 2 other categories, man. I couldn't do it.
All right, then I'll take it. Sean Strickland, man. Okay, so here's the thing: is that when I looked at it, no one picked Alexa to beat Valentina, and then for those first few rounds, Valentina was beating Alexa. Sean Strickland came out against Israel Adesanya, and from round 1 was leading the dance, hurts him, stuns him, and then just keeps leading the dance for the other 22 minutes of that fight. No one saw it coming, similar to how no one expected Alexa to beat Valentina by grappling. No one expected Sean Strickland to win by just boxing. You're talking about a former glory kickboxing champion, talking about a guy who knocked out, the other glory kickboxing champion, the guy who people were saying, I think leading up to the fight, is this the most skilled middleweight since Anderson Silva? And Sean Strickland, probably the most beautiful execution of the basics that we've seen in years. When you look at it, no big dramatic movements. It was essentially all Philly shell, timing, and execution of basic boxing. I don't know that he, outside of when he tried to finish Izzy, he ever threw more than like a 5-punch combination.
Right.
Like that whole fight. And he outstruck Israel Adesanya. No one thought that was possible, earlier this year. If you had watched, the Cannonier fight, you wouldn't have thought, oh, this guy, 25 minutes without Adesanya, he'd win just boxing. No, Sean Strickland did that and changed his life, changed the whole conversation on everything at middleweight. So Sean Strickland for the win.
That dude had a crazy, mid to end of the year. What's up, Tanks? This is Marty. If you guys don't know about Tank has been coming out and watching Keyboard Warriors forever. And he likes those rumors about a certain Marty Usman juicing a little bit. Yeah. All right. Upset of the year for me, Sean Strickland. It's hard not to pick that one, honestly. I had a hard time, obviously, honestly, because of the Grasso, but still.
I mean, I still can't believe this. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
Go ahead. Tell me about Sean Strickland.
All right.
Eddie.
So who saw the brash and outspoken, outlaw guy that a lot of people, if you don't have thick skin, he's gonna rub you the wrong way type of guy, taking the title from a guy that people were calling the middleweight goat not long ago, right? And Izzy, and we've never had a champion off the top of my head. We never had a champion like Sean Strickland before. Say what you want about Sean, but he's himself at all times, unapologetically, never ever changes. He's still driving the same pickup truck, lives in the same house. Nothing's changed. Still saying whatever he wants, lighting up Ian Gary on something. And it was wild to see him win. But I'll tell you what, I've been at two Apex cards where Sean Strickland came in on short notice. The most recent one when Kelvin Gastelum dropped out because he was supposed to fight who's
Shavkat?
No.
That
Kelvin was
after.
supposed to fight. This is way back.
Cannoneer?
No. Kelvin was supposed to fight.
The one we saw where he had to have the teeth stitched back in, right? That
yeah,
photo?
it was a French guy. What was his name?
Oh man, not Marc Andre.
No. I forget what it was.
That's
but anyway,
a different weight class. Sorry.
So he takes over, and Sean Strickland media days are legendary. Alex Behenon knows it. Okay, the chain is not gold; it's silver, and and then Sean Polk and the other media members, which is hilarious to us and everything. But when he comes every time, those two times he came in, I'm like, oh boy, because I wasn't mentally prepared to deal with a Sean Strickland that day. So, but it was fun to see him. He skipped me. He poked fun at everybody but me, and it's not because I intimidated him, because I don't, right? But he didn't say anything, so it was wild.
My favorite things about Strickland, when Chris Curtis won at the T-Mobile, Sean's in his corner. Sean takes a seat about, if you imagine like a school, like in the classroom, he's like 2 seats over from me. There's no one in the middle section. So he was headlining against, oh my God, I'm drawing the blank. The guy that he lost, the guy that he ended up, the Cannoneer fight. He was headlining with the Cannoneer fight the following week at the Apex. And so I'm able to ask Chris Curtis, like, hey, how do you think Sean Strickland does next week? And I swear, I think Sean knew that I was expecting him to do Sean Strickland things. I look at Chris, I don't look at Sean, I just take the microphone and I just extend my arm to make sure it catches Sean Strickland's audio. And Mr. Strickland did not disappoint. Did he know that was my plan? Probably. I appreciate that he decided, oh my gosh, thank you, sir. You want to play ball with me? Let's play catch. I've had everyone and their mom. I've had my boss who never sits to talk UFC with me sent me the clip of setting off Sean Strickland against Israel Adesanya last year. My barber has sent it to me because her husband showed her. I've had random friends who have no business hitting me back up again because they haven't talked to me that much, saying, I just saw you. I've seen clips where it has about over 10 million views of me asking that question to Sean. And my only thing is, I think Sean Strickland knew that I was trying to kick the ball for something to happen. And, thank you, sir. You did exactly what I wanted you to. And I think here's the thing. He may not admit it. I think he was hoping I would tee it up for him too. Maybe. Or somebody in general, not specifically me, but I think he was waiting for someone to tee him up too. Because next thing you know, I see that clip on every countdown and everything else for like the next 2 months leading up to the fight. So
let's talk about that, dude. You've had some of the and I know it wasn't just this year, but it's been forever now. But you've asked some of the questions that have gone freaking viral. The one makes me laugh every time we ask Shavkat about Lorosenko. That one makes me laugh every time. But the other one was to Sean Strickland, asking him, who's the best striker up here? You set off a firestorm on that stage, and it reminded me, because you've done it like 4 or 5 times, like minimum 4 or 5 times, where you asked a question and it set the whole stage on fire. And like these clips just play and play and play. When you go in there, is that prepared, or you just like think of it while you're up there in line?
No, you can't prepare something. You hope so. You sometimes think of a few things, but let's be real. We know who asked question first. John Morgan. Yeah. We know who asked questions after John Morgan. MMA Fighting. MacLight. They've earned that spot. They're big websites, bigger than ours. That's not a secret. So yeah, by the time they get to me, sometimes, you could prep all you want. Someone is probably going to take it in the first 15 minutes. That's how long sometimes we're waiting. So no, I just kind of look at it, and I kind of look at it from a fan point of view.
Yeah.
You know, media day is for the decorum, right? That's to ask a serious question, to, you know, use the time we have to get something meaningful out of it.
Right.
The press conference is a fan event, first
Mm-hmm.
and foremost. We are asked as media to participate in essentially the half hour or little more, little less TV show. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, well, you know, we want a little bit of excitement. Who are the personalities? What do we want to hear these people really talk about? I knew Sean Strickland, first press conference. People talked about him. How you feeling about your first press conference?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the questions he got at that one was like, "How are you feeling at your first press conference?" And you know, it just what I remember, not a lot of people bring up. When I asked Sean Strickland that question, you hear Israel Adesanya go, "Oh," and then and it's like, here we go, and lo and behold, here we went, right?
Yeah.
So no, long to answer your question bluntly, they're not planned. You know, you go out there, you want to have something that people remember. You certainly don't want to be forgettable. And I've seen plenty of questions that the fans don't react to, they react poorly to, that
Mm-hmm.
the fighters are clearly like, you know, I'm not about to get in my feelings in this moment with thousands, you know, hundreds watching, millions watching on the stream. So you just try to figure out what you could do with the pieces you have at each one. And knock on wood, I've just been very lucky that I've been able to come up with a few things when I'm out there that fans and the fighters and the internet reacted to really well. So, you
Dude,
know, hope for more.
I've seen you on clips on other like out like websites and stuff like that. It's so many times I'm like, at least give the guy a tag, damn it. He can't ask a good ass question.
You know, it's one of those things. It's like if you ask for it, it feels wrong. But it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, I feel the same way sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
I know that the UFC, I believe the Sean Strickland one, made their like top 30 for the 30th anniversary on Fight Pass, and
Mhm.
that was really nice to know. So yeah, you know, it's just I'm glad that people like it as always.
There you go. Got a couple questions here that you and I could both answer, brother. You go
Sure.
first. The Apex. Is it legit such a small venue to watch the best of the best fight?
You know, so here's the thing: is that it's definitely, you have to go in understanding it's a different vibe. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like getting to go to a concert and it's a small amphitheater as opposed to like a big arena. It's very intimate. You get a different vibe. There's only about like 100 or so chairs for spectators. So you got to understand that's what you're getting going in. You're not going to have a bajillion people. Feels like you're rising out of your seat when you're cheering. You're not getting that at the Apex. You're going and it feels like a private event. It kind of is like the Hunger Games, you know? Like it's all these people who spend a lot of money to get
Yeah.
some violence and be up close to it. So that's what the Apex is. Obviously, you feel more like a gladiator, I'd imagine, going to the big arena. And fighters know that. That's why I think they prefer being at the big, you know, on the road. But the
Mhm.
Apex, it's a different vibe. And by now, everyone knows that going in.
Yeah. No, the thing about the Apex is it's just like I said, it's a different experience. If you want the huge pops and all that, absolutely go to a regular pay per view, whatever fight night that you want to go to. The Apex brings a different crowd, and I'll explain it this way: I'll be sitting in the media room waiting for the fights to start, or whatever, or waiting, doing interviews and stuff like that, and post fight. This is fight night, and like you'll see something crazy like Jake Paul walks, not Jake Paul, like Logan Paul walks in. You're like, oh, that's Logan Paul. Or Dan Bilzerian comes in. That's Dan Bilzerian.
Mm-hmm.
Or Fighter X, whoever, Connor comes in, or Michael Chandler, whoever. And then when you're in the actual arena, you get to see these guys like with their friends and family sometimes. It's a different experience, way different than a big UFC card or, a big arena. So it's just different. That's why, like, when people are like, oh, I'm so sick of the Apex, I'm like, it's not. The Apex cards aren't really for the viewer. They're really not. They're not going to be attractive to the viewer at all. If you're in the actual room, which again, it's expensive as hell to do, or to get a ticket to those, but you get a much different crowd. It's almost like sitting. It is like sitting front row at a Laker game, basically, right? Like, you look left and Jack Nicholson's over here. You look right and Chris Rock and whoever Who was
It's
the
like
other
going to a
gentleman?
basketball game and you only have those first three rows,
Yeah, yeah.
court side
Ex-
and two behind you.
exactly.
And that's it. There's no upper bowl, there's no lower bowl. It's
Hmm.
just you guys. Same action. You're still
Yeah.
going to cheer and all that for the same action, but it is quite bluntly, clearly a very different experience live.
Hmm.
And that does translate, I think, a bit on the TV side.
Right.
When the guys
Yeah.
start throwing down, obviously it's the same thing inside the cage. They know they got to
Hmm.
win, and that is still thankfully captured, obviously, on TV.
Right. No, 100%. So, but yeah, totally different experience. He goes, it's only Uber-ish people at the Apex. Not always. Some people, will dish out the 2-3 grand, whatever it is for a ticket. But you'll see a lot of famous people there. I'll tell you that. Hell, you'll see some famous people at Power Slap. There was one, I forgot what card it was I went to go cover, and Friday, no, Thursday, Friday night
It
was
was the
Power
Friday
Slap.
night, yeah, the one where you helped
Friday
me
night.
out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, because I left the next morning. And that's when that whole thing blew up the next day. We won't even talk about that. But yeah, I went to that and it was just like it was pretty crazy. I don't know, it was a lot of fun.
I remember the
Um,
Pawn Stars guy goes to
yeah,
that. Theo
yeah,
Vaughn, I'll see
yeah,
him. They
yeah.
promote it. They make sure you know that they were
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah. I'll say this about Power Slap. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is way better to catch live. Way better to catch live.
They
What?
invest a lot in the like
Mhm.
live like aspect of it.
They do. They had this
The
guy named
the
Crazy
the
Hawaiian
TV
dude. It's
thing is
nuts.
built very much to make sure you get it for socials, which Dana White has said very bluntly is kind of the point.
100%. He definitely. I mean, if you look at the people he's bringing in to do some coverage for both UFC and but mostly Power Slap, that's what it is. Um, all right, we'll jump over to Bowie. We'll get back to the other question here. Tank, but Bowie has a question. What was the best Apex fight card you have been to? I've been to a few. I
Ooh.
can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh man. You know what's funny? I don't do as many at of
Mm-hmm.
those. I want to say, yeah, I was at the Islam fight. I really wanted to be at that one, and it was the week after a Connor fight. So
Mm-hmm.
Connor and Poirier happens, and then Habib's there the next like few days, and it's like so that was an experience.
Yeah,
The Islam Bobby no, was it no Thiago Moises,
Moises,
Islam
yeah.
Thiago Moises.
I can't remember which one I was. I've been to way too many of those, but I can't remember which one, man. But they've had some good fights. But they'll have those fights where it's like, man, that would have been great at T-Mobile or something. But it's what it is. All right, last question before we go because we're a little over time now. I'll let you take this one first. Is it intimidating asking Dana a question? He'll call you a dumbass if you don't bring anything good. He will call you a dumb. He'll at least say your question is dumb. I know the guy's named Dan something, but the poor fella is last time around where Dana called this question the dumbest question ever or something like
Like
that.
you won the award, yeah.
Yeah. So is it intimidating to ask him a question to you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Here's the thing: it's not because it's like, oh my gosh, it's Dana White. What am I?
Mm-hmm.
No, but here's the thing: like Tank, I know you guys are watching on the internet. I know how many people are. You guys let me know in the comments.
Yeah.
You guys tweet at me when it's like your first tweet in 5 years if you don't like something we say. Me, everybody in that room gets them. You guys find us to let us know how bad our questions are. So yes, there are times when it's like, sometimes you feel like something's gonna hit. Guess what? You try some things every now and then, like everyone else in every other facet of their life. You try something, it didn't work out. That's all it is. So yeah, is it a little intimidating? Yeah, not because it's Dana, because you know what the reaction might be. But here's the thing: if you get nervous about that, you're never gonna get anything good ever. So
Right.
you honestly, it's just kind of like getting out there to the batting cage or a sport or any kind of drill. You just kind of got to keep going at it. If you miss one, whatever, shoot again, to go again. So yeah, is it intimidating? Absolutely, but even if let's say it's like wait, what do you mean? I've had him ask me to repeat it and it's like
Mm-hmm.
clearly this is not landing like I hoped it would. What am I going to do, stop asking questions? No. And
Right.
if he comes back the next day or next week, do it again, try
Exactly.
again. That's how this job works. So, and I'm
100%.
sure here's the thing, they may not say it, the other guys bigger names, they'd probably tell you the same thing, like yeah,
Yeah.
you never want to be the one that has it go wrong and like here's the clip on Twitter, blah blah. Happens to everybody.
Happens to everybody.
Look, go on Twitter. Man. Everyone
100%.
knows it. Yeah.
100%. All right. Hey, happy New Year there, Tank. Have a good one. I think for me, I think maybe the first time that I asked him a question, like the very first UFC card, it was at the Apex that I covered. But after that, it kind of just felt like business as usual. Like he knows what's going on, and everything. Like you also know, like if you're gonna ask some, I mean, if your question, for the most part, you know, if your question might, fall flat on, from him directly, and not just the internet, but it's from him directly. You kind of know. Now I'm not saying that like if I ask him a question because it's a real question, it's not a promo question. It's not a when are you coming back to Phoenix question ever for me. I don't mind those questions, because we'd like to know, right?
You
But
should ask him when
um,
they're coming back to Phoenix. That'd be so great for your plans.
I would love to. I would love to, but we were told one thing and now it's not happening. So we'll see what happens.
I
But
hear
yeah,
you.
it's not, I think the first time it is, and a lot of what you say is 100%. What you say is 100% true as well. It's that everybody. You might not be watching. Gabriel Benitez. First fight of the night, he wins, and you might not be watching that. Post fight scrum, but for the most part, you are watching the Dana White one because you do want to hear plans and what next, big next for big fights and all that. So 100%, like the eyeballs are out there. If you stumble, the world saw it, 100%. So, all right, man. Well, we're out of categories. Let's
I was gonna say, dude, what was it? Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much. PFL. I mean,
yeah, PFL.
so to me, I think the biggest thing, I thought that PFL just did everything right from a just how to build interest. Now, mind
Yeah.
you, I'm not saying that suddenly they are 1B to UFC's 1A yet. However, having been there for the John Jones Francis Ngannou thing, and it's happening like 6 feet in front of me, I could tell you, I was like, bro, like the amount of FOMO I could feel from the universe
Yeah.
being there. And I'm like, PFL executed this beautifully. You set it up. You told Francis when to be there. You knew
Yeah.
they were going to walk by each other. Ray Cefo's there to mediate the whole thing. Beautifully done. And I think they did that. Obviously, what a steal. Jake Paul's MMA debut when it happens. Perfect.
Mhm.
They announced it. I will say this. You tell me it's almost 2 years from the announcement that he's actually going to fight. Don't feel as excited about that, but that's another story. The Francis Ngannou thing obviously was huge. Their biggest get. They changed the entire conversation with that. In the short term for them, in the long term for all of the fighters, because not everyone is gonna have the perfect Francis Ngannou story. For crying out loud, he's arguably one of the top 5 guys they had at UFC in terms of stars. I mean, knockout artist. He knocked out everybody. Defending champion. The whole Africa connection and everything, and the champs over there, it just worked. And now, like for PFL to grab him, I think they just really did a good job of injecting a whole new conversation into the landscape.
Mhm.
Once again, this has to, at the end of the day, it's all got to be converted into more viewers on TV, more butts in the seats, more, t-shirts on people's backs and everything in between. It's got to eventually convert into that. Otherwise, what are we doing, right? The same way it did with UFC back in the day. But for sure, I think that the biggest way to jump across that Grand Canyon is you need to make me feel like I am missing out.
Right.
Like, wait, what's going on? What? Mbappe is there, and wait, who's there? And it's like, you got to make me feel like I'm missing something if I don't watch, because that's the biggest thing. The casual fans feel like there's so much UFC, it's okay if I miss the other stuff if I'm not a diehard fan. PFL did their best shot, took a lot of good swings and hit the ball a lot to make you feel like, wait, something's going on at PFL. I should
Mhm.
probably watch this. Like I said, I'm not saying it made that entire ground up, but they certainly made some progress, a lot more than a lot of people have had made to the UFC in a long time, particularly in this, monopoly, super industrial ESPN era that they've enjoyed. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And then they let Francis Ngannou box.
Yeah.
That was huge for them because that's still a PFL fighter. So that was massive for sure. One championship coming into the States, coming into Denver. As soon as I heard that was coming, I was like, I'm going. There's no way I'm missing that. I want to see that because you you've heard the stories, like, you know, the in arena production is awesome and all that. And I'll be honest with you, it is great. The in arena production of that is amazing. The fighters knowing that they're part of the show, like the actual show, not just the fight, but the production of it, like Stamp coming out dancing. Now she does it every time she fights, but she put a little extra in this thing. And for American fans to come out and watch these guys fight and like know them and have and be able to, you know, call to them and everything, to me was huge. One championship, have obviously my first media experience with them was Denver, and super easy to work with. Did they hit some bumps? Absolutely. You know, no media day, no media is ever, or media availability, whatever is ever easy, but it was actually a lot of fun, and to get to know those guys as well. The one thing that threw me off a little bit was weigh-in day. Having the doctor there checking the hydration, I was just like
Don't get that every day.
yeah, it was weird. I was like, okay, you're walking up here with like urine in your, okay, hey, do your thing, bro. See what's up. But overall, that was dope, and they are coming back to the States. Not sure exactly when. There's no dates and everything, but in 24 they are planning to come back. So that's gonna be pretty cool. PFL buying Bellator. I gotta be honest, it still does not make sense to me. Like, I'm not gonna go as far as Dana White did, where he was just like, in one, you know, POS, buy another POS, whatever, or that doesn't sell tickets, doesn't do it, no one watches, you know, buys another one. I don't buy that, because there are a lot of people that watch Bellator, maybe not as many as UFC, obviously. There are people that buy PFL. Combining them is not really gonna help the numbers too much. I think I'm 100% with you with the FOMO thing. You have to make people believe they missed something. They missed out on something, whatever it is. But they definitely need some help in their pacing. Whatever they're gonna do with Bellator, please fix the pacing. PFL. Don Davis, fix the pacing, dude. Please. I mean, there's times where, even, you know, all due respect, a fight happens, it's finished, wonderful. We got to finish. It's amazing, great. 30 minutes later, I mean, they got to do 30 minutes to fill before the next fight, and Randy Couture looks bored talking to the camera. Like, he looks like he's about to yawn. I'm pretty sure I've seen Dan Hardy do this before, where he's like doing this and then getting off camera for a second, coming back, and I'm just like, dude, even they know it, man. Fix the pacing, please. But I got to give a shout out to a lot of those guys at Bellator, man. I know you did online as well with CJ and all those guys, the PR guys. Wonderful to see CJ, you know, go over to PFL and everything. I'm not sure about Brent or anybody else, but
I know Danny said he's going to pursue other things.
Is it okay? Do you know about Jim?
I believe Jim is also with PFL. I feel like I saw him on a release. I'd have to double check that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I'll start from there and then go back to your previous point.
Yeah.
Look, anytime, and I think we talked about this on my show, which you were on the episode you were on, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look, whenever you have that, from a fighter's standpoint, yes, it is a lot of those things that they say are missing. It's one less option you have to negotiate with, and who could probably see the value in you. You know, there's less pools to swim in, kind of deal. That is a true thing. The opportunity to be part of a bigger show, which I think that's something maybe Bellator was struggling with a little bit. I think that's huge. There's going to be a lot of hype for the Ngannou pay-per-view. There's going to be a lot of hype for the Jake Paul pay-per-view. When we get there, being a part of that event, I think is a big opportunity. There are some fighters that got the short end of the stick. I think of Liam McCourt. I think of Alexander Chablis, who's in the finals of the Grand Prix. Didn't have a belt, so it's like, well, where do I go? And it's like, it doesn't seem to be a title shot. Yes, that's just the fallout of a game-changing move in the space. And the other thing to reiterate, many media members, myself included, got opportunities the first time to cover big events, large-scale events, elite-level fighters, to know what a media day is run like through Bellator. Because the media demand is just not the same as it is for UFC. People who don't even watch UFC fights will ask for UFC credentials because it's UFC. If I have the Liquor World magazine and Conor McGregor has a $600 million whiskey, where is he? Right here. Yes, there we go. You get it. I can't do it behind myself. You get what I mean. They ask for UFC credentials to the Conor McGregor fight.
Yep.
Why? Because it's this brand, right? Bellator doesn't have that, and Bellator gave a lot of media members their start, and I think that is now leaving the landscape. It's one less place for people. And the people who I've seen go from media or other parts of the business to now being part of production and behind the
Yeah.
scenes in public relations or in production or in management, and a lot of the opportunities Bellator gave to them, that's going away, and that is very sad. um I do think, going back to the point, what does it all end, where does it all culminate to? PFL essentially bought the rights to a lot of talent at
Hmm.
a bargain price. I mean, Don Davis said they didn't even pay $1. It's essentially they gave some stake in PFL to the Bellator
Yep.
ownership. That is huge when you think about AJ McKee, Chris Cyborg, Johnny Eblin, Patchy Mix, Vadim Nemkov. I mean, this is talent you did not have to fight with the UFC over in free agency. You got all of them in the bag. That sets up a huge thing. Now, once again, telling those stories, getting people invested in these fighters, that is going to be the end goal. You could do that. You will create traction in 24. And I think that, once again, it's the Grand Canyon. Getting
Hmm.
fans to open their wallets and give you their hard earned money when before they only do it for UFC. That if you could, that's how you start. You get people invested. We already know the action's going to be good. All those fighters I named got some great highlights.
Hmm.
Get the people invested. You can turn this into what you need it to if you're PFL, and that's the thing. And that's their mission. I'm sure they left their meetings at the end of this year saying, "Hey, 24, we're gonna get it done." How they execute it, that's what we're going to find out next year. But for now, I'm like, okay, that's what they have. That's what they bought. Let's go.
Exactly.
I want to touch on it. Just you talk about Ngannou boxing,
Yeah.
seminal moment, I think, for the sport. And what I mean by that, I mean, guy bet on himself. Look, essentially parted ways because he felt like the grass could actually be greener. Found
Yeah.
out there's an oasis on the other side.
For real.
Got the bag from PFL, got the bag from boxing when, let's be real, he kind of had to get lucky. They had to come all the way back around again for him to get that Tyson Fury fight. Tyson was focused on Usyk. Tyson was focused on other people. Those fights fell out, and in Ngannou, things worked out more beautifully than you could have imagined. That's huge. Not every fighter is going to be in Ngannou's position, but
Sure.
you have to imagine there are a lot of guys who they're going to look at their careers and say, I might have something like that. And I seriously got to consider that. Because I think a lot of fighters, if you're where he is in UFC, I'm good. Why am I going to mess with the good thing? Bird in the hand, two in the bush. Ngannou showed you, hey, it may end up being more amazing than you could have imagined. Look at the production of that event and all that. And I think that's huge. When you look at the whole scene, Dylan Dennis, Logan Paul, I mean, one, Scott Coker is like, how many times have I tried to get this kid to fight? And his next fight was Logan Paul. And there's I'm not saying that that's what we would have asked Scott Coker if we talked to him at the end of the year. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he was like, don't talk to me about that boy ever again.
Ah,
But the opportunities for people, like
yeah.
we see Anderson Silva and, Tyron Woodley, and more are coming. I think you look at what they're doing with the whole Misfits thing and all that. There's opportunities for the MMA guys. Mike Perry, case in point. There's more places for you to fight as an MMA fighter than before that aren't even MMA. Like the game bred bare knuckle MMA, game bred boxing, the UFC fighters potentially at Misfits, just regular bare knuckle BKFC, and then you still have the LFAs of the world and everything else. I mean, it's quite the year for you if you are a former star. Maybe the UFC title, that run is over. For you to
Mhm.
still make money if you're at the top of the game, and I think that's amazing. Going into 24 is to visibly see guys and girls getting bags because of their resume. I think that's huge.
100%. And Francis Ngannou arguably beating Tyson Fury. Like, you can make an argument that he won that fight.
Moment of the year.
Um, that would have been, dude, if he knocks out. He knocked him down, but if he knocks him out, like, it throws everything on his head. So You're right. Yeah, man, that bet on himself, like you can never be mad at somebody for betting on themselves, and whether they win or lose, right? They at least did it. They had the guts to do it. But
He won the game when he got the
yeah.
bag from PFL.
Oh yeah.
He officially ran the table. Excuse me, hiccups. When he got the bag from boxing too, when it was like, things. I think that was just a good thing happening to a good person, plain and simple.
100%. All right, man. What are your thoughts on 24 MMA? What are you
Going
thinking?
into 24, look, UFC is still king. When you have a number like 300 that people can't stop talking about, you're still the industry leader. When I think about 24, I want to see some of the big fights happen. I want to see Hamzat in a title fight. I want to see what's next for Israel Adesanya. Um, Setting up those big fights for guys like Leon Edwards, Justin Gaethje. That's what I'm looking forward to. Alex Pereira. Um, the John Jones of it all. Like I want to see these big stars fight. Um, I think that we're about to experience another year of turnover behind guys like
Mhm.
Tom Aspinall. I think the next man up is a very real thing going into 24. Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
And then so look, there's big fights in UFC. Is my plain short answer. Then everything else. I want to see more craziness. I mean, karate combat. We're talking about Machida Shogun 3 in karate combat of all things. I mean, who could have imagined that?
All right.
Um, Obviously the PFL Bellator of it all. I mean, this girl right here, Chris Cyborg. I
Mhm.
mean, she's out there. They said you're fighting Larissa Pacheco. I see her still calling out Kayla Harrison. I still see her calling out Leah McCourt, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck's going on? All that getting solved. That's what I'm excited about. Where all of these storylines essentially reach their conclusion. But UFC having bigger fights, everywhere else making crazy fights to make their impact. That's the two things I'm looking forward to.
I want to see who the next big stars are going to be. I feel like 2023 we didn't have a massive star come out, right? Not that we do every single year, but every year you go into it hoping like who's going to be the next Conor McGregor, the next Anderson Silva, the next whoever, right? And
You don't think it could have been Sean O'Malley?
I want it to be Sean O'Malley. I
You
can
think
say
he's
that much.
maybe still building up to that guy, to becoming that guy if he's going to
I,
be? Is that
yeah, I
what it
think
is?
so. I know he's champion. I know he sparked the Aljo very impressively, mind you. But I want to see him go on a run and like prove himself to be like I am that dude, and
Because
he's
I'd
got to
give
get
him
this.
best walkout at 23.
Oh,
I feel like
100%.
easily, like that moment, I'm like, if you
If
are a
you are,
superstar, that's the
mm-hmm,
kind of walkout you have,
that
and he
was.
did.
And
But
I'm a
yeah,
Lupe
I'm with
Fiasco
you there,
fan,
getting there. Oh yeah.
and I'm a big Lupe Fiasco fan. So I was bouncing that during that walkout. I was like, yeah, let's go. But yeah, no. So I think Sean O'Malley could be that guy. We'll see. All right. Anything else you want to throw down in 2023? We're still here.
You know what? Really, just best of 2023 is on our YouTube channel. The
Mhm.
highlights, the best interviews, media days, and moments that we were there for. Obviously, our king of shorts, clipping them over there, Eddie. Thank you. I know a lot of fans been enjoying them across platforms. And yeah, just keep it dialed in. We're still going to keep doing a lot of content, and we're going to be in attendance soon, coming up this month with Strickland and Drakus, I believe. So
Mhm.
yeah, you guys just stay tuned for that. We try to make it as much of a one-stop shop as possible with all the promotions that are operating in the major leagues. So yeah, just keep it tuned to cagesidepress.com. We got you covered.
And speaking of that, Jay Anderson will be on the Ryzen on the Risen, however you say it, Risen FF
Oh, he's in
card
Japan
that.
right now.
No, he's on TV.
Oh,
He's watching it on TV.
ah,
He
he's
loves
live.
going to Japan. I know he loves going to Japan, but he ain't go to this one. But he'll be covering that tonight from the comfort of his own home. But I got that kicks off in I think an hour and 50 minutes or so. But
Wow.
I want to give a shout out to the staff, the team. You obviously Jay Anderson. You guys don't understand.
Mhm.
Like Jay's quiet. He don't say a lot.
He
You
does a
know, see,
lot for he
he
does a lot to
does.
make the thing. He's that utility player. Without him, it does not work. No
It
matter how
doesn't
nice the
work.
pieces look.
It does not work without Jay Anderson. Huge shout out to Jay. I consider him, you and him and the team, close friends and everything. Um, guys like Danny Vreeland, Top Turtle. You got Dylan, the
Jake,
Dylans,
I'm very proud of Jake and
Drake.
Jamie's work live.
Hmm.
I know, look, transitioning to from doing your own thing to
Hmm.
working in our system, I know I ask a lot, and I just want to shout out to those two for the effort they've
Hmm.
taken to ask me, like, hey, is this what we're looking for? And I just appreciate that so much. So yeah, obviously our guys, but Jake and Jamie, particularly Jamie, for I know
Yeah.
there's a time difference when I'm talking to him. Just
Hmm.
applaud their effort because they also represented well
Yeah.
on site. And obviously, we have a bunch of new people who we
Right.
hope to get to that point as well eventually. So yeah,
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of compliments about I've heard from about you, obviously Jake, Jamie, big time as well over there from the UFC Europe PR team. Obviously the Dylans, Russian Napoleon, Cade Morehouse. Um, I don't want to miss anybody. Bryson, Sean Bitter, him as MMA Wizard. You guys don't
mm.
understand. I
The
don't know how
king
Sean
of
knows.
prospect watch.
How does he
Yeah.
know any of this stuff, dude? I can't even find these people he talks about on Google. I'm like, dude, what the hell? All the guys that are on the team, man, it doesn't, Jamie, Val, um, Chris, I don't want to forget anybody. I apologize if I did, but it's shaping up to be a really strong team, and I'm expecting big things in 24. You guys should definitely expect big things from us in 24. We're making moves. But that's it. We appreciate ultimately, end of the day, we appreciate you guys, the viewer, the reader, the guys that you guys hit subscribe, you hit like, you leave a comment, all that kind of stuff. We love you guys. We appreciate the hell out of you guys. Keep riding with us. We're gonna keep moving, keep rising, there's only way to go up. So um Happy New Year to you. Yeah. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to the team. Happy New Year to the viewers and the readers and everybody. We appreciate you guys. See you guys in 24. All right. Myself, Gabriel, the entire team, we love you guys. Good night. Catch you guys in the new year.